Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Hey guys, so one of the many amazing things about having my podcast is that I get to talk to these amazing people. Many of them become my actual real life friends. But the funny thing about the podcast is that our very first ever conversation is recorded. And today I went back and listened to the podcast before I recorded this intro. And I actually recorded this episode over a year ago. And I talked to two people who have really become very, very close friends of mine now. It's really funny. You'll hear in the episode we talk about me coming to visit them in London and making an appearance at one of their dinners that they do with their girlfriends. And I did that almost a year ago now. And I've hung out with them both lots of times. And Jill and I were just together last weekend at Kripalu. And we've just become really awesome friends. So that's one of the amazing things about podcasting, is that I get to connect with everyone listening and the people who actually come on the show. It's just way cool. So today's episode is with two fellow podcasters. It's Gillian and Ange, who host the Holistic Health Diaries podcast. And I love them. I found them through podcasting. We connected through podcasting for the first time, which you'll hear in a moment. And they're just two really, really awesome people. Ange is really like the guru of essential oils, and there'll be info on WholeFit and what she does with essential oils in the show notes of this episode. And it's interesting, lots has changed since we recorded this, lots has stayed the same, but they're just two really awesome, groovy, cool, amazing people. So check out the archive of their podcast and explore that. And also just really enjoy this conversation. We get into everything from holistic pregnancy and holistic living and meal prepping in a really mindful way, and how you can enjoy healthy eating but not in a disordered way, in a really pleasurable, fun way, and just some interesting habits that they both have and really enjoy. I learn a lot from them. I love them. I know that you will too, and I'm really excited for you to enjoy this episode. So as always, if you want to support the show, best way to do it, tell a friend. That would be really cool. Another really cool way to do it, leave a review on iTunes. I love giving this content, and if you find any value in it at all, it would be so amazing if you could toss some stars my way on iTunes. You actually have to launch the application, but it's so worth it, and it only takes 2 minutes, so that would be amazing. And, again, if you're finding value in the show, just share it with a friend. That's great. If you want to donate, there's a way to do that in the show notes as well. But I'm just really grateful that I'm able to do this. And like I said, I'm outsourcing some of the production now. So I'm hoping that the show will be weekly, or at the very least bi-weekly for sure. So every other week for sure. And very soon it's going to be weekly again, because I just love recording these intros, and I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys, and I love being in your ears while you're driving, while you're folding laundry, while you're walking, all of the above. So if you have a guest you really want to see on the show, let me know. Tweet at me. If you have a topic that you'd like me to cover, if you have any feedback for me at all, I would love it. So just send me an email if you're listening and you found value in the show. My email is just my name @gmail.com, and I would love to hear from you. Subscribe on iTunes, and like I said a billion times at this point, tell a friend, and make sure you're on my VIP email list. If you're listening to this on your phone, make sure you're on my email list just so you know when really cool things are coming up. I'm doing a lot of new things that are going to be really fun, and I think you guys will really like. So if you get on my VIP list, you get my list of Katie's favorite things, all the things I love. So yeah, I'll put the link to get on that in the show notes as well. I love you guys. I know you're going to love my friends Ange and Jill. They're so cool, and I know you're going to love them. So, all right, that's it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Welcome back, everyone, to Wonderland for the podcast. I'm super grateful and excited to have two fellow podcast hostesses in the Wellness Wonderland today. And if you love my show, you either already love or you must absolutely get into their show, The Holistic Health Diary, which is a rad podcast that covers everything from living more green, eating more green, and spending your green responsibly. I love their little tagline. And because, like I always say in Wonderland, every time you spend money, you're voting. And I know that these girls are so awesome and totally believe that as well. So, like I said, their show is amazing. They're a dynamic duo that has amazing synergy and flow when they're together. So you really got to check it out. And individually, they're pretty awesome as well. So Ange, we'll start with her, is a wellness mama of two. She's a personal trainer, a nutritionist, the founder of WholeFit.com, mother of two girls, and she's just a glowing, awesome person. I'm so excited to get to know a little bit more today. She inspires people worldwide to get into health and wellness and to be passionate about taking their health into their own hands, to be around for their children and their families and really excel in their lives. So she has an amazing online coaching program, and we'll get into all that she does. And her partner in crime, Jill, is amazing as well. She's currently completing her doctoral studies degree at Western University in London, Ontario, which is where they're from, in health and rehabilitation science. And Jill's research examines health promotion, specifically around childhood obesity, physical activity, and diabetes. So Jill is passionate about holistic health as well. She's a yoga teacher, president of the Western chapter of the Canadian Obesity Network, and just an awesome lady all around, a scrunchie wearer we were talking about before the call. And so anyways, the authenticity in their podcast makes me feel like I already know them. So I'm so excited to speak with them in real time today. So thank you guys for stopping by Wonderland.
Wow. Can we just carry you around in our pocket?
Of course, please.
We're so happy to be here in Wonderland with you today. Thank you for inviting us.
Oh my gosh, of course. This is going to be really rad. I was thinking about it before, and I bet there's a lot of people who enjoy both of our podcasts, so for us to come together is probably super cool. It's super cool for me, at least.
Yeah. It's scrunch-tastic.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, I guess, a good place to jump in would just be to zoom the lens back and find out more about both of you. So I'd like to hear how you each came to this work, being wellness junkies that you are now. And also, I'd love to hear the story of how you met and what brought you together. So I don't know who wants to start with your stories.
You want to go, Ange?
Sure. So I guess going backwards, I've always had a passion for all things healthy and using myself as a bit of a guinea pig, right? So if I go back to even when I was a teenager, I got my first personal training certification and took some of those little cheesy nutrition courses that are offered and was kind of dabbling while I was in a corporate job and spent about 12 years in that job working, climbing my way up the ladder. And it wasn't until I had my kids. So my oldest, Chloe, she's 5. When I had her and had the luxury of having a year mat leave, during that time, I was kind of like, hey, I'm going to stop this rat race and really do what I feel like I was put on this earth to do. And I've always had my head in health books, very passionate about it. I've always been a seeker of information that I think might help other people, and I love to share. So I launched WholeFit back a little over 5 years ago. And at that time, I was just, doing tons of information for free, putting out lots of blog posts and recipes and information I thought would just genuinely help people because I really love to be in service to others. And it kind of evolved. To be honest, I never saw it turning into what it was today. I've just always had a passion to share. And I am so fulfilled today. I can't even imagine doing what I used to do in a corporate job. And I would say I really credit that to the experience of becoming a mom that gave me the time to step out of my life and reanalyze, and then also want to do something that really matters, because I was now a mother and it was important to me for my own kids. So that was kind of what launched my career in this. I became a holistic nutritionist, and I was doing a lot of one-on-one work for the first couple of years. And then about 2 years ago, I took everything online, so I could work smarter, and have more of a reach and more of an effect on more people. So now I do a lot of online group coaching programs. I have a 4-week series called Eat Clean, Get Lean, and I run that 3 times a year, and a guided 7-day detox that I do with large groups. And I love that, community you can build online and creating connections for people that maybe wouldn't otherwise have those people in their life being where they are geographically. So I love the online learning realm.
Yeah, I love that, Ange. And I think, just to pick up on something from your story, that, for a lot of people, I think it starts with the body, and it starts with getting into this for your own personal health. And then you see the result of how good your body can feel and be. And you just can't help but want to share that. And I know that was the case for me. I was sharing with, my family and my friends and my roommates and people on the street and just anyone, and till it got excessive, until the point I needed to just start a blog. And that's kind of, I think, how this evolves. And it's just a beautiful story. I love that. So how about you, Jill?
How about me? Okay, so I've always been into health. My mom is super healthy, and I've done a lot of growing up. She was always really teaching me, and sort of a really good model of health. And
such a lucky way to grow up. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I know, my mom's awesome. She's amazing, and the oldest of 7 kids. So she just has been an amazing model for me of so many things. So grew up really healthy, really active. I played a lot of competitive sports. I was a competitive skier and soccer player. And then I went to Western University, which is a university here in London, Ontario, where we live. And I did a degree in health sciences. And then going through school, wanted to go to med school, because if you're good at science, that's kind of what you want to do. And then I realized I didn't want to do that. And I liked health. So after I finished my undergraduate degree, I went and worked at the health unit here in London, and worked in public health and did research there. And I loved research, and I really realized that that's something I wanted to do, but I wanted to do my own research. So in order to do that, you've got to have more degrees under your belt. So I headed back to Western, and I did my master's degree in health and rehabilitation science, and I specialized in child and youth health. And then I'm there still, so I'm like an eternal student, finishing up my PhD in health and rehabilitation science. And it's taking on a more it's kind of evolving, my degree right now. And I'm sort of working with the business school now, and working to look at using online media as a platform for improving health of children and youth. So that's kind of my academic background. I started teaching at Western last year, which is super fun. And I taught the first year health science class with 500 students. So my first class ever was in front of 500 students. So it was awesome. They were amazing, and love that. And I realized through doing that that's something I'm really passionate about. I love teaching. Every time a class is over, I'd have this huge adrenaline high, because it was just amazing.
Aww.
And and one of the things I feel is something that I want to give to the world is that research can be really scary and intimidating. And I find in everyday life, you hear on the radio this study, that study, and you don't know if it's a good study or a bad study or what it means. So one thing that I really love to do is read science and read literature, and then turn it into a form that everybody can understand, and that is relevant in everyday life, because things that happen in the lab aren't necessarily what happens in real life. And how do you kind of bridge that gap? So that's kind of where I see myself. So to do that, I write for a bunch of different magazines. My first magazine I wrote for was Oxygen magazine, because I went through a brief period where I wanted to be a fitness model. And so I entered an Oxygen magazine model search, and I won it. And then I realized I didn't really want to be the model on the page, but I wanted to write for the magazine. So I did recipe development, I write for Inside Fitness, which is Canada, a big fitness magazine up here in Canada, and Sweat Equity and Chatelaine and a whole bunch of other ones. So I do that. And together, Ange and I have our Holistic Health Diary podcast. And what? Oh, Examine.com. Yep. Thanks, Ange. I'm on the advisory board, Examine.com. That's a new thing for me, which I'm super proud of, because Examine is this awesome online website that, again, is that same philosophy. They take science and they break it down, and everything that's done there is researched, vetted, and done in a really good way. So I do that. And my newest thing I've been doing is going on the Home Shopping Network, HSN, down in Florida.
So cool.
And it's actually so fun. Their slogan is, "It's fun here." And it actually is like the funnest place. It's so fun there. So I go on the Home Shopping Network, HSN, and I'm a guest host there. So I just started doing that this year. So that's pretty fun.
That's amazing. And my mom, like, adores that. She loves that, and David Avocado and you, and, like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah.
I love that. So a couple things on your story I want to pick up on are just, it makes me feel like I can't, when you were speaking about the fact that you taught the class in front of the 500 people, and it just, you being in the educational system makes me feel better about the educational system. And it's just awesome that there's someone who has this knowledge of health and wellness and nutrition and just general lifestyle, and is there teaching people, because I think, you know, and you both would probably agree with me that in a lot of settings there's a disconnect there. And I think that's where your work, why your work is so important, both of you, but Jill with the educational system. And so I love that. But also, Jill, I want to know, so when your degrees are complete, where do you see yourself being and taking that and using it? Do you think you'll still be in the classroom setting teaching more, or in an online way?
You know what? That's an amazing question. And to be honest, I have no idea. And I'm okay with that. But I love teaching. And so I don't know where that's going to, I want to teach a lot of people, like big scale. And so whatever that kind of evolves to, my thing right now is I'm just really open. And when opportunities come, even if they're scary or weird, like to me, I was terrified the first day when I went in front of to teach, and I loved it. So I'm just kind of open to see what happens in terms of, you know, if I teach, I want to teach for sure, but I just don't know where or what form, or maybe it'll probably be multiple forms. Knowing me, like I like to do a lot of different things. And so who knows, you know, like with creativity and being the way things are, it's just, I have no idea, but we'll see, you know, I'm sure it'll constantly be evolving, but yeah.
I think so too. And I know that wherever it goes, it's going to be really, really cool and awesome.
I do too.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And I think, you know, I like what you said there, that, you know, when you first started that class, you were nervous. And I think it's really important to kind of pick up on that, because we can kind of use our feelings as road signs, right, of where to lean in. And that feeling of fear, sometimes leaning into that is important, because that means something big is about to happen, something you were supposed to do, and to really lean into that and follow that is important for our expansion as people.
Absolutely. And like, if I reflect back and look at my life, you know, in the past couple years, a lot of the most amazing things that I do or that I love or the people that I know are because I was scared, but I reached out, I did it anyway. You try it, you know, and to me, that's where all like the good stuff is, right? You have to face your fears and just do it anyway.
Absolutely. Feel the fear and move through it. Love that. So I want to talk about how you guys balance this lifestyle that you live, living a healthy, holistic lifestyle. And, you know, that is obviously so important in the lives of all three of us, but without becoming too obsessive or too restrictive and too much losing the pleasure in your life, right? So you guys have had multiple guests on where you've discussed eating disorders and you've discussed some really powerful things. So how do you guys make sure that you're living this lifestyle for enjoyment, but also making sure there's pleasure in your life and that you promote that in all that you teach and share?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because balance is so elusive. We all think it's something you're going to have all the time, and you just don't. And I think it's important to be really clear about what your kind of your core priorities are, whether you want to call that core feelings or core tasks or habits that you do every day. And I'm a big believer and proponent of the 80-20 kind of approach within your day or within your week. So when it comes to food strategy, for example, and how you eat, keeping a good part of your day routine around clean, whole foods, and then letting life happen sometimes too. Like I have kids, we go for pizza, we have ice cream, like we do things because I think if you have this approach with health that it has to be this job, it's never going to be enjoyable. And it needs to really be sustainable and something that, you have consistency within, but then you also have those times where you just let loose and have fun. And I think the vibe of our show is definitely one that we want people to come and listen and take something, absolutely. But we also demystify and have fun with what we're talking about so that people feel like health is approachable and something they can have in their life. And it's not this big, complicated thing.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you shared that I think it's really important because so often we're, as people who are in this industry and people who are passionate about this and very clearly, eat in a certain way and do things most of the time in a certain way, even when we do things that are in that 20%, we're not often sharing about it and we're not often talking about it. So it's very easy for people who, maybe look up to you guys to think, oh, well, they would never do that. And then they feel bad about themselves. So it's great to out yourself and say that because I think it can really kind of take people off the hook and it makes you so relatable and real, which is beautiful.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I've been to a lot of extremes. Like when I was doing fitness modeling, my nutrition and my workouts were extreme. They were mapped out for me, and I do really well. I'm a very organized person, so I have to watch because I do really well on a schedule where I check boxes and I was to the point where I was measuring my food. So with dinner, I would have 4 ounces of chicken, and I would literally get out my kitchen scale and weigh my chicken.
Yeah.
And I did it almost mindlessly because I was writing my master's degree at the time, and I just kind of did it because I had a coach and I wanted to achieve a goal, and so I was doing what it took to do that. And then I kind of stopped and I reflected and I thought, this is crazy, like what I'm doing, and I'm not enjoying food anymore. I was looking at food not from a perspective of enjoyment, and I would carry food around with me. I was constantly like, when's my next meal? And it was this life that I didn't want to be living. Yeah. And I thought, okay, this is something's got to change. So I kind of, again, got back to that, everything, like life is meant to be enjoyed, and you can be healthy and you can be happy, and it doesn't need to be hard. Because once you get into, a routine, like I set my kitchen up for success. So I have, I go to the market on the weekend and I'll buy lots of fruits and vegetables and healthy food, and I have them in the fridge and they're ready to go. But at the same time, I kind of honor my body, and I'm a student of my body. So I've really connected with that, and that's what kind of guides me. So if I eat food that doesn't feel good in my body, I won't do it. Feel good in my body, so I won't eat it. But at the same time, like Ange said, like life is meant to be enjoyed. Like I was in New York last week, and I'm a huge Sex and the City fan, and so of course I went to Magnolia Bakery.
I was just gonna say, I bet that was
right. And I got one of a cute cupcake with sprinkles on it, and I sat there and I ate it, and I enjoyed every minute of it because
I love that.
Without guilt, without anything, because that's life. And I think that's a huge piece is that people feel this guilt whenever they do something that they deem isn't healthy or good or whatever. You're right. It's absolutely like if you look at someone online and the pictures they post, like I actually think I posted my cupcake. I did post my cupcake because a lot of people that eat healthy, they only post that, right? And I know Ange and I both, like, that authenticity piece is so important to us. The life that we live is the life that we live every single day, and there's nothing fake or staged or anything about it. And I think that's why we're able to connect with so many people, is because it's coming from that place of real life. Like, we live real life. Ange has kids. I have a dog. But life is there every single day, and it's meant to be lived and enjoyed, and you can set yourself up for success and not feel guilty about things along the way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. We are so on the same page. The tagline of the Wellness Wonderland is the place for radical authenticity, and you guys definitely live in your Wellness Wonderland. And the interesting thing I think about your story, Jill, is the fact I have a very similar personality, very organized and very, if I have a system and a plan and a meal plan, like done, boom, and disciplined just is my personality. So there were, in a lot of ways, that way of being and way of eating is comforting to me because the thinking is taken out of it, right? The having to think about it is completely taken out of it. And it's interesting that you said, you were doing your master's degree at the time, and the time when I was really restrictive and my eating disorder was when I was a student. And I think it is because, you're busy during that time, and you can kind of like take it off of your plate and be like, okay, live in this very controlled way of being, because a lot of your peers aren't doing that, aren't in that space. So I think that's interesting to just have that acknowledgement and that awareness and say, this is one way to do it and one way to be, or there's a way to be that's more pleasurable and more able to feel the highs and lows of life without the guilt. And it's a process. And to say that, I'm completely there and I don't, double check my mind when I've eaten something that's not in my, eating strategy, whatever that is, that would be a lie. But I think, that is the path that I'm on. And, I had a coach very early on tell me that if it's going to stress you out not to eat something or guilt you not to eat something, that stress and that guilt are worse than the food itself, whether it was a cupcake or a deep fried Snickers bar, I don't know. Whatever it was, the guilt and the stress are worse. So just eat it and enjoy it. But just like you said there, sit down and enjoy it and taste it and be present with it. Not, standing in front of the fridge or by the cabinet. So I think that that's a really, really important thing that we highlighted. And I'm so glad that we went there.
Absolutely. And I've had a lot of people, and I myself, I've been there as well. You kind of live your life on autopilot and you just go through your day, and when you actually take time to stop and be present in the moment, it changes everything, because you're not just eating because you need food to fuel your workout, to fuel your day, to get through work, you're eating because you're nourishing your body and you're enjoying the food. And when you can change your perspective and not be on autopilot, but be present in every day, it changes everything. You become more grateful, more mindful of what you're doing. And it totally shifts your relationship with food when you can be present when you're eating.
Yes.
Especially.
Yes, so amazing. And I think, another thing I wanted to pick up on from your story, Jill, was how you spoke about now how you go to the market and you make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in the kitchen. And I know, Ange, that is a huge part of what you teach and preach with Whole Fit. And I think that I'd love for you guys to both talk about how you do that specifically and the importance of meal prep. But this is not, I feel like that word meal prep, I think of like Instagram photos of like extremely portion controlled things and like Tupperware, but you guys do it in a really fun, pleasurable way, but also setting yourself up for success. Because to me, and if you have personalities like us, that organization and that prep is self-care and is pleasure, because then you're opening the refrigerator when you're hungry and you have pleasurable, high vibe food right there for you. So can you guys both talk about the importance of that in your lives?
Yeah, I'll speak a bit. One of the very first classes I launched online was me in my kitchen, and I did a webinar of my actual meal prep session. I remember thinking I don't know if this would actually be something people will even care about, but it's been the most popular thing I ever did, because I think, first of all, our generation, we have not been raised in the kitchen, right? We were part of that fast food generation when we were growing up. And so we didn't really witness our own mothers in the kitchen because they were starting to get stressed and busy in their own lives around that point. So I think we've lost the art of being in the kitchen and making foods from scratch. So I kind of went on this journey. I became very, barefoot in the kitchen and maternal when I had the kids. And I really wanted to embrace being home. And so I started getting really passionate about home cooking and slow food. And so I created this class and I use this system, and I want to mention a few things that I do just to really make meal prep fun. One of the things I use is an online meal planner called Plan to Eat. And in there I have about 1,200 healthy recipes. And I teach women how to, use it to plan out their week. And, it's so awesome because you could, like, let's say you have black beans in your fridge. You go in and you type black beans and it pulls up every recipe that you've stored on there of things you could make with those black beans. And so when I teach the class, I teach people how to have just healthy basics in their fridge all the time, not necessarily, like you said, chicken and broccoli portioned out in 40 Tupperware jars,
Yeah.
But, what do you do when you open your fridge and you have sprouts and cooked quinoa and black beans and maybe some chicken that you had crock-potted or something? How do you throw those together and make an actual meal in 5 minutes? Because I think that's the key. We're all very busy. And Jill will share her own approach. My approach is a Sunday afternoon. My husband takes the kids out. I make a giant mess in the kitchen. I turn on the tunes. I burn some essential oils. I'm just I make it a fun experience. And I take about 2 hours and I make a big mess and then clean it up before they get home. And now we have good food in our fridge till about Thursday of the week. And then I do another top-up session midweek. But that's it. And then we always have things in our fridge for quick grabs.
That's amazing. I love that so much. It really takes the pressure off. Could you, before we kind of talk about what you do, Ange, could you just tell us maybe like one or two go-tos that you've done recently or that have been hits in your family?
Yeah, my favorite crock pot recipe. First of all, I'm such an advocate of the crock pot, slow cooker, whatever you want to call it. I use mine almost every single day, whether I'm cooking breakfast overnight, like an overnight oats in the crock pot, or I'll wrap like sweet potatoes in foil in the crock pot. I use it almost every day to take out.
You can do that? So you just wrap the sweet potatoes in the crock pot and you just stick them in?
That's it.
Do you put water in there or anything?
Nope, you don't have to.
Whoa. I'm going to try that. I've never done that.
Yeah. You know what the best one is? You can put a whole butternut squash in there. You know how hard those are to cook sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it's cooked for you when you get home. You just throw it out. When I'm doing a big squash like that, I'll put like an inch of water in the bottom, just enough so it doesn't burn. And then when you come home, you just take out the seeds, throw it in your Vitamix, and you've got soup.
Wow, my mind is blown.
Right? I know. Crock pots rock.
Wait, so let's go back to the sweet potatoes. So you put them, you have to put them in the tin foil? Why do you have to put them in the tin foil?
I do that. Otherwise, it'll be a big pot of mush.
Gotcha. So you put in the tin foil, no water, just put it in and let it go for like 4 hours on low?
On low. If you're going to be out like for the whole day working or something, add an inch of water in the bottom.
Also to prevent the burning.
Just to prevent burning, yeah. But yeah, one of my favorite meals.
This is amazing.
I know. I have a crock potting class coming out in the fall. So
yes, I'm in.
Totally take it. So anyway, I made this lentil taco meat. I make this once a week, and it's so easy. I'll send you the recipe so you can post in the show notes. But it's basically like salsa, lentils, bunch of veggies like mushrooms, zucchini, and then some veggie broth and spices, and you let that just cook. And then what I do, because I have 2 kids that I have to be a little sneaky with, so I just take a little hand immersion blender and mash it all up after it's cooked in the crock pot, and then it's like taco meat. And we put that on lettuce wraps. It's really good.
That sounds delicious. I want to come over.
Okay. I know, we're not that far from each other.
I know. We've got to hang out. We got to do something cool. We have to like have an event and have all of our community come and eat lentil tacos or something.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, yum.
So my I'm very similar to Ange. I try to have this rule, and it doesn't always happen, but most of the time it does, is that I don't like to put things away until they're washed and cut and ready to go. So, like when you come home from the grocery store, you just shove things in the fridge. So what I'll do is I'll come home and I'll put on a podcast and do cleaning, the cutting, in an ideal world. It doesn't always happen, but that's my goal.
Yeah.
And so because I'm a geeky science person, I played around with what's the best way to store my produce in the fridge. So I also am like obsessed with like infomercials and things, because I like in terms of buying things on TV, like I'm a huge sucker. So I bought. Have you seen those bags that they're like produce?
The Debbie's green bags?
The green bags, yeah. So I got those, and then I got Tupperware or Rubbermaid or one of those makes these like veggie containers they're plastic, but they're BPA free, and then they have this like little insert that goes along the bottom. It almost looks like a grate, and then so it allows like if you had like water dripping off your veggies, it like pools in the bottom, but your veggies don't sit in it. So used that. I used like regular containers, And I put a whole bunch of vegetables in all the 3, and I kept them for a week to see which one kept my produce the freshest.
You're such a nerd.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the answer was the thing with the insert on the bottom.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but I'm sure you could just like make it. Like anything that elevates your produce a little bit, so like it doesn't sit in the water, it actually really extends the life very nicely. And same as the lettuce and stuff, I feel like getting that little bit of air underneath prevents like your spinach from going wilty as much, or your kale. It kind of gives it a little bit of flow in the container. So that's what I do, and that works the best. So I do geeky things like that, but that was one of them. So then I'm the same way. Like I used to find cooking really scary because I didn't know what to do. And so I started taking cooking classes with my mom, and they were raw food cooking classes, which I went raw vegan for a while. And, but I started using things like my dehydrator and a spiral slicer and my Vitamix all the time. And that allowed me, the raw cooking, you have to get really creative in the kitchen in order to eat. So that skill set that I learned, I've now been able to incorporate into my life. And so I have fun in the kitchen, and I'm creative. And I used to be, again, my personality, like follow a recipe. Like I would actually measure everything out. And now I just kind of throw things together and see what happens. And I experiment in the kitchen, and I have fun with it. And sometimes I make dinners that don't taste awesome, and sometimes I make amazing dinners. But I think taking that fear and that, because cooking can be an intimidating process, especially if you don't have a lot of experience or know what you're doing. But if you can kind of make it fun, like Ange said, really enjoyable, then it changes a lot. And I also love to listen to podcasts while I cook.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because then I love it. It's like my favorite thing.
Hey, Katie, I want to mention one thing we do here in London. Jill and myself and a couple of our girlfriends, we get together once a month, and we have this healthy.
I love this. I've heard you guys talk about this. It's so
cool. And maybe something that the listeners could do as well. We call it Love and Lemons, and we get together, and every month we have a theme. And so we're all making new recipes every month, and we all have assignments, and it's just a really fun way to learn about new foods and find new recipes. I know myself, every time I'm on a specific dish, I go out to like, Winners, or the equivalent would be Marshalls for you guys. And I go out and buy myself a new dish, and it's just fun. Like you learn about a lot of different foods and recipes. So something to maybe think about.
And sometimes like with the themes, you really have to get creative and try new things. So it's really fun because most of the time we're all trying new recipes when we cook, and it's great, and we have fun with it. So yeah. And it's a good way, when you have your girlfriends and you want to catch up all the time. It's one of those things like, oh, let's do lunch, let's do dinner, and then it never really happens. Yes. So this way it kind of forces us, or like it commits us to getting together, and then we make sure that it's healthy. So no matter what we do, it's not like when you go out with your friends and you go out for like pizza or whatever, right? So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that's I
highly recommend.
Talk about that and a couple, maybe the most recent one about the pause. I'm not sure, but anyways, you guys spoke about this, and ever since I've been like, oh my god, I have to do that in my local community, because it's so true. I've been meaning to get together a group of people, and a group that I know a lot of them, and some of them know each other, but they may not know each other, and but I know they would connect, and I think that this is a great way to, just like you said, get together all those people you've been meaning to hang out with, but sometimes it's just a struggle to actually make the time. And then, doing this really cool way of getting you all to go into the kitchen and have a cool theme. And sometimes it's, sometimes going to a restaurant is fun and nice, but sometimes depending on the restaurant, you can be like salad minus the croutons minus the cheese, and so it's like iceberg lettuce and there's nothing. And I think like it's really nice to do this in a fun way. And one of the things I heard you guys say is you have these themes, which are awesome. One of them was yellow. I know you guys spoke about, which is really cool, where you made like super creative yellow things, and you all wore yellow, and you played the Coldplay song. It was like super rad. But the nice thing is that at these events, I think you guys said, and you can expand on this, is that I think it's really nice that people kind of let go of their eating strategy in lieu of community, right? Because it all goes back to that pleasure conversation we originally had, which is that's the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal why we're doing any of this is for pleasure, to feel good in our bodies, to feel good in our community. So I love that you guys kind of let go of the reins and all prepare something with love and know that that's the most important ingredient.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I do in my Eat Clean Get Lean program throughout the 4 weeks is every week they have a different type of strategy with their food. And I just finished the program, the summer round, so that's probably why I'm using the word strategy so much as I talk. But what I want to teach, and it's mostly women that take this program with me, but what I want to teach them is that there will never be one diet that you subscribe to, quote unquote, your whole life. And I don't, I think that it's important that we pay attention to how we feel when we eat, and that will shift. I know, Jill and I have talked on the podcast before about this, but in the summer, for example, when the weather's warmer, you're probably naturally craving more raw foods, or even maybe more vegan foods. And it's an interesting thing to learn about your body when you see yourself go through those phases. And then in the winter, you're craving those seasonal squashes and heavier foods, and most likely meats, foods that are going to put a little bit of pounds on the body. And that's a good thing, right? But often if we subscribe to something, we really miss those cues from our body. So that's what's been cool about this dinner group is that, yeah, some of us maybe have had hangups about eating fish in the past or meat or whatever it is. And together we're open, we just want to try new things and we learn about ourselves.
And the other thing that's really cool is I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that inspire you, people that you feel comfortable with, that you can talk to, that you can teach, that you can learn from. And so this dinner is a really great way. All the women in our group are amazing, accomplished, ambitious, smart women. And so to be in that presence and that energy every month is really, really.
I love that. I wish that I lived slightly closer so I could come.
You should
love to have you.
You could be a guest of honor one time. You should come up for it.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh.
Done. We're talking about it after the episode. I cannot wait.
To the Mad Hatter Tea Party.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Wellness Wonderland.
Love it.
Katie in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, this is so good. I just love you guys. So, Ange, I would love to talk. So you're a mama. You've got amazing children, and I would love if you could talk about the healthy, holistic pregnancy process, because I know we have a lot of mamas to be listening to the show.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to learn what my own approach was, or?
Yeah, just kind of any like top line tips that you have, and any of your own experience.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I think to backtrack a little bit, I think it's super important to really respect the process that's happening when you have a baby, and try to be in your best health before you get pregnant.
Yeah.
I think because, well, and actually today it seems like more women are struggling with fertility and trying to get pregnant, but it's something that most women feel is a rite of passage. And I think that we don't respect it enough to take the time to create a healthy home for the growing baby. So I think that's the most important piece, is really try to clean everything up before you even start to try to get pregnant. And then through pregnancy, you can very safely maintain an active lifestyle. I mean, I know myself personally, I was swimming. I loved to swim during my pregnancies, and I weight trained right up till 40 weeks with both kids. So I didn't have this extreme amount of weight that I put on my body during pregnancies, and it made everything a lot better. I actually ended up having 2 C-sections. The first one wasn't by choice, but I attribute my healthy lifestyle to helping me recover really quickly from an actual very traumatic experience. So you just don't know what you're going to face, and I think you must do everything you can to be healthy. And I despise the statements, oh, you can eat whatever you want when you're pregnant, and that really, we've been so misled in thinking that it's just this kind of free-for-all to eat whatever we want because we need a certain amount of extra calories per day, for example. That's really ill advice. It's a very important time to be healthy, because everything you do is impacting your growing baby. And something that I actually experienced, I was vegan for most of my first pregnancy and all of my second pregnancy. And I thought at that time that was the best diet or approach. And, a couple years ago, I think that the whole vegan approach to eating really took off because there wasn't a lot of education about how to properly incorporate animal products into your diet. So I was of the belief that was the best thing. And what I actually ended up learning through that experience, my youngest, Emerson, she had eczema her whole first year of life. And it led me on this journey to make that gut health connection. something like eczema, for example, is a very internal issue. It very rarely is because of things we're putting on our skin. What I learned through that is that perhaps the foods that I ate during pregnancy did not actually create the healthiest, ecosystem within her body. So that was a really humbling experience, right, for me, because that was a very visible, people could see it on my little baby that she wasn't, quote unquote, super healthy. And here I am, trying to navigate and share lots of healthy advice for people. So that took me on this journey. And before you knew it, I was boiling bones in my kitchen and, creating foods rich in gelatin. And I was able to help her body heal 100%. So that taught me that very important lesson that we can't look at food as the enemy. And we can't look at food as what we know today is always going to be the way, because it just won't. We have to be open to what we might learn.
Yes, before you go on, I just have to pick up on that because I'm so glad that you shared that story. And again, it mirrors mine in so many ways. I too, I now think of being vegan and being raw as almost a stepping stone. And it was what got me into this work. And I know either Ange or Jill, I've heard one of you speak about this book, The Beauty Detox Solution, and Kimberly Snyder's Way of Beauty.
Yeah.
And an amazing book. Love it. Wonderful. But I thought that was the only way to do it for a very long time and was very restrictive in that way. And then again, same thing. And with my skin, I was breaking out. I had acne, and I realized that maybe, and a same thing, I would, just like what you said with your baby, I felt, here I am promoting health and wellness, but I'm very visibly not in the space where I am promoting. And that was difficult for me to it was a great teacher to look at what I was doing and see, maybe there's another way, maybe there's other things to add in. And then same thing, really cultivating that gut health, which is so important and so important in pregnancy as well. So I just love that you shared that, because I think our eating strategies really evolve. And just like what you said, Jill, about really using your body as a big experiment to figure out what works best for you over time. And over time, I know for me, you start to notice what feels good when you eat it and what doesn't. And so I'm just so glad that you shared that. And I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, and I want to connect back to what Jill was saying earlier about enjoying life and food. And I think it's important that every woman go through a journey of just really loving food before they get pregnant. And I say that because you don't want to lose your connection with enjoyment, because when you have a baby, it's very easy to fall into the system of just eating foods that are convenient. And you really want to have a good experience. And like you guys shared with, when you're in school and you're very regimented, it was easier to kind of fall into that routine with food. And that all goes out the door when you have a baby. You lose that time and those systems. So it's important to just have a relationship with food where you learn what feels good in your body and what's really nourishing you, because that's going to really sustain you when you're pregnant and when you have a baby. So that's kind of all I'll say about that. There's obviously, I think bottom line, it's probably the most important time in your life to really be healthy is those few months before you get pregnant and during pregnancy.
So good. I love that. And the perfect segue, because I was going to ask, directed at Jill next, since you're a student and we have tons of students listening to the show, I would love if you could share some of your favorite tips for green living and healthy living as a busy student and being where you are in your life.
You know what? It's been a total process that I've learned, but I've been in school for a million years now, so I'm kind of getting it down. Campuses, I don't know if your campuses in the States are the same, but ours, it's unbelievable how unhealthy they are.
Totally. Yeah.
We have Tim Hortons here, which is like our coffee. It's kind of like Starbucks.
You'd have it there.
Oh yeah, you'd have Starbucks.
Yeah. Yep, we have them here too.
There's a Tim Hortons everywhere. And there's, pizza and the residences. If you look at the food that they're eating, the environment really isn't conducive to health.
Totally.
And I see it so much, the freshman 15 is a real thing and something that a lot of people face. And so it can be really challenging. And so I think that it's really important to bring food with you. If you're going to be on campus every day, it's so much easier to just go over to the cafeteria and buy lunch. But if you take that extra, 10, 15 minutes the night before or in the morning before you head to campus to pack a lunch, that is super important. Also packing snacks, because I know, like, for myself, like I'll be in the library on campus, and you're kind of hungry, but you're not really, and it's so easy to just run down and get something, get a coffee at Starbucks or Tim Hortons, and just grab a bagel, grab a cookie, grab a donut, because it's there and you're hungry and you just want to munch on something. So having like nuts or healthier options available, like just in your bag all the time, is a really good habit to get into, because then that way, if you're hungry, you have something there and you don't need to kind of let that, like, when you get hangry in the middle of the afternoon, right? So it kind of can curb that. And I think a lot of times it comes back to that learning how to cook and learning to know your food and to prepare for it, because you're setting yourself up for success. And especially, like, I know the other thing, I'm a morning person, but I know a lot of students are night people. They do all their studying late at night. And that's when and I was like that in my undergrad, where you start snacking at like 10 and you have a coffee with, like, I used to drink like a double cream, double sugar in my coffee, because I didn't like coffee, but I wanted to stay up. Yeah.
Hilarious.
And actually it was green tea. Ew, I used to drink green tea with coffee and milk. Or coffee and sugar. Cream and sugar. Isn't that gross?
It's pretty nasty.
Yeah. Because I thought I was being healthy because I was drinking green tea. And then
there it is.
Right? So I think it's really about educating, and especially on campus, like doing the best. I don't go to campus that much anymore, and I'm at home. And sometimes that's actually harder, because unless you've set up your kitchen without having all the junk food, it's really easy to just keep snacking throughout the day. So it comes back to eating mindfully and actually taking breaks to eat versus eat and study at the same time is another thing that I think is really...
Or work, or take care of your kids, or whatever it is your lifestyle is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are some things, like, you just have to watch, because campuses really oftentimes, they're getting a little bit better. Actually, our campus just got a little grocery store in the basement of, like, the main community place, and so that's kind of cool that they actually have, like, fresh fruits and vegetables available on campus now, which is cool. And
sure is, if you're in a bind.
Exactly. And so I think, like, knowing your campus and knowing what's around you that's pretty close. The other thing is that, if you're a student, you're probably on a budget.
Right.
And eating healthy can be expensive. That's just kind of the reality of it. So learning, the dirty dozen and the clean 15, knowing, which things you can maybe get that aren't organic, things like that, and budgeting your food accordingly. The other thing is in my budgeting, I prioritize healthy food and things like that above other things. Like, I don't go to the movies. I don't watch TV, like things like that, because I would rather take the money that I would spend at the movie theater and put that towards healthy food. Yeah. So, when you're a student on a budget, you can really look at how you're spending your money and making the best decisions, because a lot of times as a student, there is a little bit of wiggle room, if you don't go to the campus pub on Wednesday, and, like things like that, where you can save a little bit of money and then invest that in your food. So that's something that you can kind of play around with and get to know. Or a lot of different grocery stores will have, like, 10% off for students on Tuesdays and things like that. So getting to know things around there where you can save a little bit of money and still buy some healthy food. And those are some things that I've done personally.
I love that. And I think that I'm glad we focused on campus, but I think that really goes for regardless of where you are in your life. Yeah. And I think especially when you're traveling, and you guys have a great podcast on both travel tips and on the budgeting for your food. And so I'll post the links to both of those in the show notes. But also, I really loved what you said there about knowing your environment, knowing where you are. So if you go to a new city, the first thing I do is I locate the Whole Foods and I locate the juice bars, and I just, kind of know what I'm going to do. And, it's easier in some cities than others, some places than others. But, then you know how much you need to prepare for your day, for your trip, for whatever. And I think that that's really crucial. And I love the other piece you started to talk about, which is when you're home a lot, it seems, and, I'll speak for myself, I find sometimes when I'm home and the kitchen's right there, it's like I work from home and I think, oh, well, I need a snack now, or I need, it's like just because the kitchen is there. But if I had been out working from a coffee shop, like I would have brought my one snack and I would have been good. So I think that that's like an emotional eating component. So I would love if both of you could address emotional eating and that emotional tie to food, and how mindful eating and enlightened eating and just being present with your food is beneficial. But if any of you, if either of you have struggled with emotional eating at any time in your life, and maybe share some of your authentic story with that.
I would, most recently, was really when I had the kids, and after you serve them all day long, right? And then the end of day hits, and Jill talked about that as a student, how like that 10 o'clock temptation to start studying and snacking would hit in.
The like witching hour.
Yeah, totally. And that's really common for moms is you have this feeling of you've done everything for everyone else all day, and then the house goes to sleep, and it's like, all right, my little treat, that chocolate and that whatever, and then that one square of chocolate can turn into a whole bar. And I certainly went experience that, even though I know fundamentally that's not the greatest thing to do for my body. It's just that emotional, I deserve it kind of approach with food. And so I think the best, what I found worked for me is I would kind of separate myself from what I was doing in that moment and say, okay, this is interesting. What's driving this? I'm not hungry. Or if I was hungry, I would look and say, okay, what didn't I nourish myself with at dinner? And it's usually fats and proteins, right? We know that often if we're eating a lot of low-fat foods, we're craving a lot of sugar because often they're pumped with sugar, and so it creates this cycle. But I would kind of backtrack, and I've really made healthy fats one of my main weapons, I think, in really combating that, because I used to have a real tough time with sugar, and that really helped. And I think it's important to replace better rituals, in those times where we're reaching for sugar and stuff. So if let's say, whether it's like 3 o'clock, you're hitting the drive-through lane, or at night when everyone's gone to bed, reward yourself in some other way than using food as that tool. That's what I started to do. So I went out and I bought myself a new beautiful teapot, and I would make like a really delicious tea. Maybe I would grab something from David's Tea or whatever, and just have a new ritual where I would sit down and I would listen to a podcast and sip my tea really slow. And it wasn't that I was ever hungry. I was just mindlessly snacking on things and treating that as my reward. So another thing could be, a self-care ritual. Instead of reaching for sugar at the end of the day, go upstairs and maybe you purchase yourself a really clean self-care line, and you spend 20 minutes taking care of your face and, putting on a face mask or taking an Epsom salt bath, or, there's lots of other substitutes in place of mindless eating when we're not hungry.
You guys, I love this so much. Like, you're so great, and that's so true. I mean, when I had Julie Pyatt, who we all love.
Oh, we love her.
Yeah, we love her. When she was on, she says that she every night has like a really rich like cashew milk latte or something. And the point isn't really what she drinks, but it's like her nightly ritual that she enjoys that time and sits and drinks something. And I loved what you said there, Ange, about sitting with your tea, and because that really is the case. It's like, what are we really hungry for? Are we lonely? Are we wanting to relax? I know for me, my big trigger is I use food to relax in a lot of ways. It's like, okay, I've worked hard all day. Now my sweet potato comes out of the oven. Now it'll be from the crock pot. It'll be ready. I won't have to wait. But yeah, I mean, and then it's like, okay, now is my time to but it's like, no, like, all right, I could eat and then I could still take that time after. Because I would feel like, okay, well, dinner's over. How can I relax some more? I want to prolong this by eating more, but it's not that I'm hungry. It's just I want to stay in that relaxed state. So I love that, and I think that's super powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
And one thing I thought of when you were saying that, my husband and I started, because it's super chaotic for us at dinner time. Like, I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. They actually still won't even eat on their own, so we're working through a bit of dysfunction there. We're feeding them still a lot just to get them to eat, But what we started doing was we would feed them, get them bathed, and then they would go up and kind of have their downtime and read books with each other while my husband and I would eat dinner together.
Nice.
So it was just what we have to do right now. I used to have this vision in my head of this perfect little family sitting around a table and everyone eating and connecting. And I know that day will come down the road, but we're definitely not there right now. So this is just something we did to try to uphold that relaxing part of dinner and that connect time between us, because it was chaos before. So yeah, sometimes you have to just come up with a better system, because I think that dinner time is really important.
Yeah, I think it's true. I feel like it's everyone says breakfast, but I feel like it's the most important meal of the day for relaxing and for taking time for yourself. And a lot of people use dinner as that that thing. I've never really thought about it that way before, but that's interesting. How about you, Jill? Do you find that with dinner, and is that kind of your most emotional meal, maybe?
Yeah, I think that there is totally something to the emotion behind eating, because it is more than just like the physical act of like mastication, like chewing food, putting it in.
Yes.
And it's something like that I've really personally like totally had an evolution with how I look at food. When I was competing and measuring out my food, I looked at food totally different than how I do now. And I would have this guilt if I ate something that wasn't on my meal plan, like, or you have your, like, I'm doing air quotes, like cheat meals or whatever they call them. And I would have all this guilt about it. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this is crazy that food is running my life. And the way I feel about the food is impacting me well after I'm done eating. Like, I would eat something and then I'd be thinking about it 2 hours later. And I was like, that's so wrong. Like, it's taking me out of being fully present in that moment, because half of my brain is still back there thinking about, I really shouldn't have had that extra serving of whatever, or, things like that. So enjoying food and making it fun, that's something that I really love, because I feel like in life, a lot of people don't have as much fun as they can. Even when I teach yoga, like I love my class to be like a playground where people can have fun, because as adults, we kind of lose that childlike play, fun attitude. So the same thing goes for food. And that's one thing I learned a lot from my friend David Wolf. He has so much fun with eating and enjoys it. And he's really taught me how to just have fun with food and not take it so seriously. And when you do that and you let go, it takes a lot of those negative emotions out, just because you're having fun and you're smiling and you're happy. But this is like something that I find very interesting. I actually just wrote an article about like food psychology, because there is science behind sort of supporting the idea. If you have a food and you have negative emotions like guilt or stress associated with that food, it's digested differently in your body and stored differently and more as fat. Versus if you eat a food that might not be the healthiest, but you enjoy it and you are happy and you have fun with it, it actually is digested differently and more things are absorbed, more of the nutrients, the good nutrients that are there. So there is sort of science behind the fact to support that you need to have a positive attitude towards your food, because it affects your body differently.
So cool.
Isn't that cool?
Super cool. I love that. And I'm super starstruck and love that you are friends with David Avocado Wolf.
I know. I love how she drops that. Like, David Wolf.
He's awesome.
It's so epic. But I also love that you shared that he's chill about food. Like, even this hugely big name is chill about food, and pleasure is part of his life.
Yeah. Can you share something that people would be surprised to learn about David Wolf?
Yeah, please.
I think.
Well, we'll put your podcast with him below for sure.
Yeah, that's how I met him, was when we podcasted.
Amazing.
Something that people wouldn't know. Okay, this is something that I learned from him that I do all the time that is like revolutionized.
Oh, nice. I'm excited.
And I think I've talked about it.
Drum roll.
But I'm obsessed with mushrooms now because of him, like medicinal mushrooms, and shaga especially, right? So he calls shaga the king of mushrooms. And he, at his house in Hawaii, has a crock pot on the kitchen, and it's constantly brewing shaga all the time.
There's that crock pot again.
Yeah.
Right? So
never would have thought to use it for
it's
brewing
brilliant.
Chaga tea.
Because shaga you can actually brew 30 times if you're making it.
Wow.
And it's more powerful to simmer it. So he, when he first taught me how to make it, he said, just simmer it for, a day or two on really low in the oven. And then, so what I would do is I would make like giant pots of shaga, and then I put it in mason jars in the fridge, because I'm obsessed with mason jars. And then I would mix it, half hot water, half the brewed shaga, and I would drink like lukewarm tea. But now I have like shaga on demand, because I saw what he did. So he has the shaga brewing all the time, and then when the water starts to get clear, you just take out the old shaga, add in new, and you just keep brewing it all the time. And then when you're done with the shaga, you can take it, he taught me this too, and you can put it in alcohol, and you can make a tincture out of it. So when you brew it, it takes all the water-soluble nutrients out, but then the alcohol-soluble ones are still left. So when you put it in the vodka and make a tincture, you then get all the alcohol-soluble nutrients. And then when you're done with that, he said you should plant it in your garden, because it's still very nutrient-dense for your garden.
Wow.
So the Shaga crock pot is
sustainable Shaga.
It's revolutionary. And Shaga to me feels amazing in my body. I love how it almost feels like it's hugging like the inside of my body.
I feel like it gives my tummy a massage.
Yeah. So I love it. So that's what I do. And then I just got like a little mini crock pot. It was like $12. It's this cute little one. And so it's just a small one on my counter, and I make chaga in it.
So that's your chaga pot. Okay, cool. Because I'm totally thinking, I was like, I got this crock pot, but I got to use that for my sweet potatoes now. I'm going to have to get another one. This is perfect. Let's get a small one.
Yeah, they're really cute, and they're like probably everywhere. And it's just tiny. It doesn't take up a lot of room. And then you do that. So yeah, that's something I learned. His house in Hawaii, he has that all the time going.
And it's always warm.
Yeah, and it's warmer. Exactly.
Wow. Love that. Amazing. This conversation has just been like so juicy, and the time has flown, but I want to ask my signature question before we get to our quick fires. So I want to know your morning routines, any specifics in how you guys start your days and how that's important for how the rest of your day goes.
You want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I get up usually somewhere between 6:30, because my kids get up around 7. So I like to have at least a half an hour to get a grip on life. And I wake up in the morning to peppermint oil. I massage it into the back of my neck, and I breathe it in. And then I go in the bathroom and I do some oil pulling. And then while I'm swishing oil around in my mouth, I go downstairs and I start to kind of prepare lunches. And like if they're school that day, I get their lunches ready and prepare breakfast for them. And I put the kettle on, and for myself, for the last 8 months or so, I've been doing this like fatty coffee in the morning called, people know it as bulletproof coffee, I guess. But I make a blend up for myself. It has organic coffee and MCT oil and grass-fed butter and turmeric and cinnamon. And I blend that up, and I sip away on that after I've done my oil pulling and tongue scraping or whatever, and kind of enjoy that in the morning before the house wakes up. And I look over my day. And one of the things Jill and I have talked about a lot on the podcast is that approach to your day of like eating that frog or tackling that really heavy task right away in the morning. So I usually will look at my day and this monstrous to-do list that I've created for myself, and I narrow it down to like 2 or 3 things that I know if I do, I will feel really great about my day and probably sleep really good that night. So I highlight them on my to-do list and I make sure they happen. And sometimes I'll tackle that really heavy first thing before the kids get up. And then that's my day. I usually don't do my own workout until around 10 a.m. in the morning. I work from home usually on a good day between like 9 and 1. So I'll do my own little workout at around 10 o'clock in the morning. But, I used to, in a previous life when I was like, working a corporate job, I would get up and move my body first thing in the morning. So that's a little bit different for me, but that's generally how my days start. How about you, Jill?
Yeah, I get up pretty early. Just naturally, that's when my body wakes up, and that's kind of newish for me the past couple of years. So I just kind of go with it. I don't set an alarm or anything like that. And when I get up, I'm a morning person huge. Like I wake up and I'm like energized and like ready to take on the day. And if like at nighttime, I'm not so much.
I'm the complete opposite. I could stay up till 2 a.m. and work.
Oh. So I'll get up and scrape my tongue. And some days I'll oil pull, some days I won't. Like I'm maybe 3 times a week. I'll do that. I would do it more. I just sometimes forget and just don't do it. And then I will go and I used to meditate, to go right to meditation. And recently I've started to do yoga asana first. So yoga postures, and I move my body and however it wants to go. So I don't like have a DVD that I put on. I just kind of go on my mat and I just do whatever I feel like, what feels good in my body, which has been really cool because even as a yoga teacher, it was weird for me at first to go on my mat and not have like a sequence plan in my head and to do it. But it's actually been really good because it allows you to connect more with your body and to, sometimes it's a really vigorous, like I'll be doing a more vigorous flow. Some days it's very like yin style and I hang out in like supported fish and pigeon pose for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so I'll move my body a little bit and then I'll sit and I'll meditate. And my meditation practice has actually really changed since I did that. And it kind of makes sense because the whole purpose of yoga asana, like what yoga poses that people do in class, the whole purpose of them, they were designed so that you could sit comfortably in meditation. Yeah. So the fact that I am moving my body and then sitting in meditation kind of makes sense. So I'll meditate, and my meditation practice is totally all over the place. And it's not an easy practice for me. Something that I feel like resistant to do oftentimes in the morning, but I always am happier in the end when I do it. So sometimes I'll like put on like Julie's Jai Release meditation and follow her whole half an hour practice. Some days I'll put on I'll go on YouTube and I'll type in 5-minute guided meditation, and I'll just listen to what YouTube has. Or sometimes I'll just sit and breathe. Sometimes I'll do a mala beads, which are those yoga necklaces. For those of you listening that don't know what a mala is, it's like a yoga rosary, basically. You can use the beads to count your breath or your mantra that you're saying. So sometimes I'll do a mala, or sometimes I'll just sit, and sometimes I'll lay down. I'm kind of really open with it and allow different things. But I think just the fact that you stop and you find your breath before the day, it sets you up for a day like that. I find people that wake up and they run out of bed and they rush straight from the morning, that kind of energy carries throughout the day most of the time. So when you can stop and pause and then bring that energy forward, it totally changes your day. So I'll meditate, and then I'll put on my hot water and I'll make a coffee. I love making coffee in a French press. So it's my favorite thing.
The ritual of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love the coffee in a French press. And someday I'll do bulletproof too. I tried it for a month straight, and I liked it. And then I find when I travel and stuff, it's not as easy to keep up. And then, so I kind of play with it. I'm still on the fence about that. And then the same thing, as Ange said, I will look at my to-do list. I use Evernote. Do you use Evernote?
Love Evernote.
Yeah. So I'll have my Evernote of what I want to do that day. And the same thing, that Eat the Frog is really important. And I'll prioritize what my day is. I'll look at the schedule if I have meetings or I teach or whatever's going on, and kind of map out my day so that I have a rough plan of what I need to get accomplished. And then I will start tackling the day. Yeah.
So good. This was exactly why I ask this question to everyone who comes on, because it's so interesting to get people's different perspectives, and then you kind of have a buffet to choose what you want. And that's the thing with morning routines. I used to be really dogmatic about it, and it's I gotta oil pull, gotta get the lemon, gotta and it's can freak you out, and that's again not the point. And so I think it's really awesome to hear that it changes. Mine is fluid. Sometimes when it's nice out, I go on a walk. Sometimes I do yoga, and it's really cool to just be chill about it and to allow different things, because each day is different, and just notice that.
The other thing I forgot, I journal in the morning as well. And a lot of times it looks like, I know you've talked about it on your podcast before, the Artist Way, the morning pages. I do that a lot, and just kind of that, allow that free flowing.
Letting it out. Totally.
Yeah, I'll do that as well. Sometimes in the evening, but usually most in the morning. And it kind of is nice just to get out whatever's in my head so that I can move on with a clear head.
Me too. I find I really can't meditate until I get those thoughts out, and I just clean them. So I love that. So now, if you guys could talk through your evening rituals and the last few things you do to wind down, just some top line things.
This is Ange. I usually do a 10-minute prep the night before for the next day. So I'll set out gym clothes. I'll kind of figure out what's happening for breakfast the next morning. I'll pull things out of the freezer for dinner the next night. So kind of just make sure the whole house is kind of organized, the kitchen, all that area. And just so when we wake up in the morning, it's not like you're playing catch up.
Yeah.
And then I have a really great self-care ritual that I love. I make my own skincare with organic oils and pure grade essential oils. And so I'll do oil cleansing on my face, and sometimes I'll put a mask on. I rarely take a bath. I wish that's something I could carve more time out for. But by the time I'm doing my own self-care, the house, the kids are asleep, so I'll probably wake them up. So I just spend about 20 minutes cleaning my face and just kind of listening to music or a podcast or something in a day. And then my husband and I will usually, we love movies and getting into shows. We just started watching Orange is the New Black. Have you watched that?
Is that our book? I saw a book at the bookstore.
I don't know. We just discovered it on Netflix, and I think more people know about it than we did. But.
It's so funny. The last guest that I just interviewed said that I asked what she does to relax, and she said, watches Orange is the New Black.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's actually a really entertaining show. We like that one and Homeland, and I'm just getting into Girls. Do you watch Girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just started watching that too. So we kind of just like hang out and watch that. And so then I usually stay up about an hour or sometimes 2 hours after he goes to bed. And that's when I do a lot of my business work, a lot of email follow-up. And I really was working on that for the last year, to not be on email all the time, but to actually set like buckets throughout my day. So like first thing in the morning, and then generally around 3 in the afternoon. And then again at like 10 o'clock at night, I'll hop back on email, so I don't feel like I'm just constantly connected. But yeah, that's my, usually how my nights go.
Nice. My nights end pretty early. I swear I'm like an elderly person.
Me too.
I like to be in bed like before 10. And like when I say that, that's like a really more like 9:30. I like to read right before bed, and not on my iPad, but an actual physical book. So I try to get off screens before I go to sleep. And then I read, and actually I was listening to Ty Lopez. He has a podcast called The Grand Theory of Everything. And he talked about how there's like, you should read biographies before bed, because you shouldn't read something that's really like an inspirational book or a motivational book, because you're kind of trying to wind down. And I reflected on that, and I do that a lot. And I think that's really smart, because I don't want to like read some super interesting, exciting book and then I get all jazzed up and then I can't sleep. So I do that. I read, I brush my teeth. I use a sea sponge, and I just kind of like wash my face with water usually at night. And then I'll put on like oil, I'm really into emu oil actually on my skin right now. It feels really nice. And then I go to bed. That's it. It's pretty, I love Julie's like drinking a turmeric latte and stuff like that, but I don't usually do that. Sometimes I'll have like a decaf green tea before, but I try not to drink too much, because then I have to get up in the middle of the night. So
again, elderly.
Yeah. Right?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love you guys. Yeah. Those morning and evening routines make me want to have a sleepover with you guys and do all that stuff, and then wake up and have crock-pot breakfast and cuddle all day. It's going to be great. So
I'll be like mom, and Jill will be like your grandma.
Yes! Oh my gosh! Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, I can't wait to visit London and hang out.
Place to be.
It is.
I know.
The other thing about my nighttime that I wanted to add is my room is super dark when I sleep, and like a cave, like dark. I have blackout blinds. There's no lights. There's no anything. I don't keep my cell phone near my bed anymore. There's nothing kind of like that. I find like being in a dark room is really beneficial for getting that deep sleep.
It is, and we did a whole episode here. I don't know if you guys heard it, but I had Sean Stevenson back on the show when his book Sleep Smarter came out for the Wellness Wonderland Sleepover, and that's a huge thing. Blacking out my room has been huge. I said this on that show, but I even put a sock over my smoke detector so I wouldn't have that light, because every little light actually your skin can absorb.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
All right, so quick fire questions. You guys ready for them?
Oh, we're ready.
All right, favorite color.
Do you want us to both shout them out?
Yeah. We'll go you, then me. So we'll go Ange, then
Jill.
Jill.
Either order.
Okay.
Favorite color you go.
Favorite color, army green.
Pink.
Nice. What is the biggest health misconception you're constantly clearing up for people?
Low fat.
I go low fat too.
Yeah.
Still, sadly.
What are you most excited about in your life? What's next for you?
Oh man, these are not quick fire.
No, that was a big one.
I love public speaking. So for me, it would be getting on bigger stages.
And for me, it's just kind of possibility. I don't know what lays ahead for me, and I'm really excited about that.
Nice. Favorite yoga pose?
King pigeon.
King pigeon. Ooh, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Love it. Opening.
Mine right now would probably be a supported fish. Love supported fish.
Good for the thyroid.
Favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
I really like Thursdays. I don't know why.
So
I like Thursdays too, because it's like anticipation for the weekend.
Yeah, I like Thursdays.
Why people like Christmas Eve. Favorite hour of the day?
I love 3 o'clock-ish because it's like the majority of the work's been done, and then I'm usually prepping food for dinner, and it's just super chill. I put on country music, chop up veggies. I love it.
4:30 a.m.
Ew.
And I think, I don't know, Julie once told me that at that time the world is quiet, and so there's more energy available, and she's right.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, it's true.
You guys are really selling me on the grandma hour.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Magic time. That's what I always say.
It is magic time.
Favorite vegetable?
Zucchini.
I don't want to say kale because I feel like that's too trendy, but kale.
Favorite fruit? Avocado. Oh, snap.
Hands down.
Favorite on-the-go snack?
Oh boy. I make these homemade, like, raw vegan energy bars. I love them. I always have one in my bag.
We'll post the link to that.
Sure. I'm going to send you some recipes.
Right now, I would say cherries because cherries are in season and they're so good.
I bought $20 worth of cherries at the market.
Oh, I do that. Yeah. I am just like a cherry-aholic right now. I don't know what's going on. They're so good.
Yum. You make me want some cherries.
Oh, they're so good.
So here's a little scenario for you guys. So it's like 7 p.m. we'll say. Let's say you haven't meal prepped or something like went wrong or something, and you've had a long day and you're beat and you're starving. What would be your go-to simple recipe that you know that you'll probably have on hand that you can grab for yourself?
I just love to saute things, like really simply greens in some coconut oil, add in whatever veggies I have in my fridge, or I'll make up a big like produce bin soup. Like I'll just take whatever I have in my produce bin, I'll clean it, and then put it on the stove and puree it up. It always works out. Every good soup starts with onion, carrot, celery, spices, and then add whatever else in, and you're good to go.
Love that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I probably would just grab a whole bunch of vegetables, steam them, and then throw them in the Vitamix and make soup.
That sounds good too.
Yeah, it's so good. And you really, you can't go wrong. You can't. No, it's so easy.
So true. Love that. So if you could have a superhero power for a day, what would it be?
Ooh.
Mine would be to have little task rabbits appear all day long that do things for me and do it well.
Ooh, task rabbits. I like that.
That's a great one.
They just pop up like little cute bunnies and say, "What would you like done?" And I'll do it perfectly for you.
I want that too.
I want that too. That's a good one. I think that I always say, I wish that I feel sometimes because I feel so good in my body. And I think that if people could feel that feeling, they would act differently. So I would give that feeling to everybody.
That's beautiful.
Like that.
I love that. What are your favorite movies?
Oh, okay. So growing up, I loved Princess Bride. I actually walked down the aisle to the theme song.
Aww.
But now, okay, my favorite movies are the ones where all the people are connected in some way, like Eve or Valentine's Day. You know those ones?
Are so good. Yeah.
Because I feel like that's life, right? Like we're all just like one connection away from each other. And those are my favorite. And I love Jessica Biel. I don't know. I'm a big girl.
We should watch one of those when we have our sleepover.
Okay. See, the perfect night is coming together. Love
Oh my gosh.
I don't really watch movies because I just fall asleep. Like as soon as you sit me in front of a movie theater.
Grandma.
Yeah, I know, right? But I love Dirty Dancing. And in December, I love watching Love Actually.
Oh, me too. It's so good. Well, maybe we'll have to strategically plan the visit around when we can watch that movie. Because I only allow myself to watch it around Christmas time.
Actually. I love Hugh Grant. He's so cute.
He is. Yeah.
Favorite
books?
Favorite books. Okay, my all-time favorite is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I love C.S. Lewis. And then I'd say most currently, anything by Danielle Laporte. I love Firestarter Sessions, Desire Map. Jill actually led a book club in the summer. I was in the summer? No, in the fall?
It was cold.
It was cold out.
Cold out. So,
she led a book club on the Desire Map, and it was awesome to read that.
Yeah. For me, I think the book that's been the most game-changing in my life is The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. I also love Finding Ultra. Of course. And I think also the Gita. I put the Gita up there too. Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. Powerful books. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. So I want to leave you with the question I ask everyone. And as you guys know, the name of this podcast and my blog is The Wellness Wonderland. So when I offer that term to you guys to live in a wellness wonderland, what comes up? What does that mean to you?
Oh man.
I knew I was going to be asked this question. I meant to think of a really good answer. Yeah, but I didn't.
Okay, so I didn't. Wellness Wonderland to me feels like weaving a couple of different things: playfulness, creativity, being in service to others, and just being really true to who you are. If you can find a career and a life that hits those things, for me, that's of most importance.
I love that. That's good.
Really good.
Oh, okay. So for me, I think that living in a wellness wonderland is living from your heart and honoring that. So doing things that feel really good, that fulfill you, that make you happy. And when you do that, you live an authentic life. You feel fulfilled, you feel happy, you feel grateful. And, having that heart-centered life and leading that way, being fearless, being brave, and being fun and happy and blissful.
Being well. You guys are so amazing. I love you so much. I'm so glad that everyone got to hear this and hear our just authentic conversation. And I hope everyone checks out your podcast and everything you guys are doing. Just stalk them, get obsessed with them online because they're awesome. And thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank
you for having us in Wonderland.
Are you going to come over to Holistic Health Diary Land soon, Katie?
Oh my God, that'd be an honor. I'd love to.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll plan a date for you to come to London, and we'll do a flip record and have a sleepover.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.